Hello, everybody. Welcome back to From the Stands College Football Game Day Show. It is week 3 for the third week of the season. We got Andy and Tom back. How's it going, guys?
It is going, Brian. It is going. I'm ready for more football.
What
Uh,
is going on, guys? It is week 3, and I feel better than ever. A lot of good games upcoming this weekend. Brian, Andy, pleasure to be on.
Good to have you guys back. And with that, we will get into, as always, our weekly recap. What stood out to you guys for week 2 here?
You want me to go first or
Yeah,
Tom?
whoever's feeling it.
Yeah, whoever. All right. Great way to run the show, Brian. Thanks for hosting. Okay, week 2. So big for me. I think obviously Florida State losing to Jacksonville State on that Hail Mary that wasn't really a Hail Mary, that he just completely ran past the FSU DBs for 50 yards. Hold on, I had another one in my mind. Tom, I'm sure you're going to speak on this, but Notre Dame going to the wire with Toledo, that was a hell of a game to watch. And then of course the game of the week, Oregon traveling to the Shoe, taking out the Ohio State Buckeyes 35-28 and inserting themselves into the college football playoff conversation. So that was just an incredible game to watch. Oregon controlled basically from start to finish. And you just do not see the Buckeyes lose at the Shoe a lot. So that's definitely something to remember from week 2.
What do you got for us, Tom?
Yeah, look, obviously what Andy just mentioned, Oregon upsetting Ohio State. CJ Verdell was outstanding, had 3 touchdowns total in that game, 161 yards on the ground. The Buckeyes had over 600 yards of offense and lose. Number 5, Texas A&M barely skating by Colorado. Iowa beating Iowa State.
Yep.
As I predicted, Brees Hall was neutralized, only 69 rushing yards. And then number 14 and number 15, USC and Texas, respectively, falling to unranked teams. So there is a lot to take from these first official 2 weeks of the season. And, quite frankly, a lot of ranked teams are falling, and I'm glad mine hasn't yet. Notre Dame skates by another week, and we got Purdue coming up on Saturday.
It's interesting. Texas A&M loses their starting quarterback, and they go to the wire with Colorado and Georgia. They were without JT Daniels week 2. That's 2 top 5 teams without their quarterback in week 2.
Yep, and notably their backup as well, Stetson Bennett. Kirby Smart kind of playing it coy, said he's also injured, but it didn't seem like anything serious. So I don't think we're going to see any third string action there. But yeah, JT Daniels still probably out for this next game, and they're going to be relying on the little 5'11". Well, that's not little, but little for football. 5'11" Stetson Bennett back there. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, you guys covered pretty much all the interesting games. Man, for me, the Milton one hurts. Guy got his first start. I mean, that's just a ridiculous Hail Mary. So I'm not even. Everyone's seen the play at this point, so it's whatever. An underthrown Hail Mary by about 30 yards. Everyone on the defense misses.
Did you see the FSU lineman that proposed to his girlfriend after that? Literally,
I
right
did.
after that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeesh,
Quick takes on that. A good move or bad move?
I mean, I'm sure he had it planned whether they win or lose, but what are we doing? After that just seems like the worst time to do it. It's like, hey, we just lost to an FCS program in the worst type of way at home. Well, you wanna?
Yeah. The only take supporting it that I thought was a good take was if she says yes after watching them lose like that, she's a keeper, because that was rough ending to the game. Anyways, we'll end all the FSU fans' pain and move on to our first segment. The coaching carousel has already started. It is only week 2. Helton has gotten the boot from USC. A lot of rumors, obviously, on who can replace him, who will replace him, who USC likes. Who do we like, guys? Tom, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you think is, potentially in the running and also a good fit here?
Bill O'Brien. I think he could be a potential wild card for this position. Obviously, he's the Alabama OC right now, working under Nick Saban. The problem with him was he was doing too much in the NFL with the Houston Texans, right? People portrayed him as a bad coach, but he was never a bad coach. He was a bad GM. The problem with him, he was a GM and head coach, and he was trying to do both, something that I don't even think Bill Belichick does very well. But he took a losing franchise to a 52-48 record across 6+ seasons. I mean, I think he's an upgrade over Clay Helton at USC. He's my guy. There's been buzz around Franklin as well out of Penn State. I would not be shocked if it's him. I think Urban Meyer has no chance. And then the other one, Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle out of Cincinnati. And I want to bring this guy up because
It's
another
his job
former
to turn down, is what I've heard.
another former Cincinnati head coach has taken his team to numerous Final Fours. I wonder who that could be. College
Here it
football
is.
playoff, Brian Kelly, multiple Final Fours. So, you know, just saying. But I like O'Brien. That's my sleeper.
Yeah, that's a pretty good sleeper pick. Who do you like, Andy?
Bring the butt chin to the valley is what Tom wants. So so from the reports I've heard, it's Luke Fickle's job to turn down. The Urban Meyer thing would be hilarious if they lose, if they go to 0-6 or something, and he's just like, fuck this shit, I'm out, just pieces out and is like, yes, and then 2 days later he's suddenly in LA, like a known liar, Urban Meyer. So also I heard a wild card, like a potential name to look out for is Bob Stoops potentially coming out of retirement to take this job, which would be hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but just interesting. James Franklin, I think, is a name to look, because I think he could actually do really well. Because think about what you have to do to do well at USC. You're in that LA market. You kind of got to be a little hot. I mean, sure, maybe they go the McVay model. They hire a young guy and see, what kind of innovative they can get. But I mean, when USC is rolling, or even now, it's a top 5 job in the country. So it'll be very, very interesting to see who takes it. My money would be on Luke Fickle, because I think if he's at Cincinnati and he gets offered the USC job, there's no way in hell he can turn that down.
Yeah, it's a weird one because, like you said, this is a job like USC. I wouldn't call them a top 5 football program right now, but it's
they're not a program; it's a job. If you think about what they could be in LA, the top 5 job in college football, not program right now. Top 5, USC is a top 5 job.
Okay, yeah, I'll agree with that. The notoriety obviously around the program is obvious, and then, like you said, a market like LA, even just for personal branding. But that's kind of a double-edged sword, because you come under scrutiny so quickly, as we're seeing now with Helton. It's only week 2. Yeah, the Stanford loss was, horrible. Stanford was slated to only win about 4.5 games, depending on where you got that futures on in Vegas. So I think that was more of a head game thing. Everyone's like, oh, a potential 4-win Stanford, and we just got absolutely clobbered.
Helton should have been fired 3 years ago.
Well,
He's
yeah,
not a good coach. He got lucky because they got a new AD, and it was a weird time for them to really get rid of the program. And then COVID hit, and you're not really going to fire a dude during COVID. He should have been gone long before this. Long before this.
All right, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. For me, I mean, you guys covered him pretty well. Bill O'Brien, I think, is a very interesting one. I am not, however, liking well, if I was USC, I would not like James Franklin as a pick. He's just such a weird play caller. I think he's probably a great coach with the players, on and off the field. He's decent with the defensive side of the ball, but he just makes some of the most puzzling play calls, at least in his time at Penn State, that it's like those rip your hair out type moments, and I don't think that's something that fits well with a team as big as USC. Not that Penn State is a small school by any means, but like you said, this is you're in the limelight when you move to a place like USC. So Franklin for me.
Yeah,
Go,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry,
no,
but
go ahead.
I want them to bring Lane Kiffin back so bad so
Oh,
we
that
can
would be
get
amazing.
we can get the I'm coming home videos. Just absolutely incredible. But I don't think he'd leave Ole Miss the way they currently are set up with a Heisman candidate like Corral.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Kiffin is. I think he's a good fit for the SEC, so I think he
Hmm.
stays.
It's hard to leave the SEC right now.
Right. Yeah. Um. So yeah, I think Bill O'Brien as well. I agree with Tom. Is a good pick. Fickle also pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they go. There's a lot of options. A lot of options here. So we'll see. Moving on. Teams should have had this sorted already. They have not. Starting quarterbacks getting replaced from these blue blood programs. We've seen some very questionable starting jobs handed out. So we're going to play start one, bench one. Starting off with Texas, we have Hudson Card versus Casey Thompson. Hudson, obviously the starter from day one, announced, and he was replaced recently by Casey Thompson. And now the arguments have started amongst Texas fans, Texas boosters, as is tradition with them, over who should be starting. Uh, who do you guys think is starter here for Texas? We'll start with Andy on this one.
So yeah, they have Card start the season, and then following that, just bad loss to Arkansas, 40-21, where he just didn't look good at all. I think he threw an interception. He had a fumble when they was like to put him down like 33-7. Then as soon as Thompson comes in, 10-play, 75-yard drive, the offense gets their footing a little bit. They kind of start moving. Card. By the way, what's his name? Hudson Card. Incredible Texas quarterback name. I want to pick him
Yep.
just by name alone. But Casey Thompson, I think he's a veteran. He's kind of put his time in this program. He's had to wait around before. And I think he's the pick. I think you start him this week. If he leads you to a victory, if he looks at least more serviceable than Card did, which isn't going to be too hard for him to do, I think Casey Thompson wins this job.
Tom?
Well, Texas hasn't had a great quarterback since VHS tapes were a thing, right? And we're talking about Vince Young and Colt McCoy. Since then, they've had nobody. So Hudson Card, as Andy mentioned, he's gotten more reps despite only being a redshirt freshman, four-star recruit. However, Casey Thompson, I think the way he came in for Sam Ellinger towards the end of last season, he should be the starting quarterback. I think Card will take over eventually once Thompson is gone, but I think it's Thompson's time right now.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. Thompson just seems like the more fluid QB back there. I don't know. It's not that Hudson Card has been terrible. It's not like he's, throwing picks left and right or anything, but it's just the offense seems very sluggish under him. And it's almost like they're relying, or he's relying on Bijan Robinson too much, their running back. Maybe, I mean, that just might be a coaching thing where they don't trust Hudson Card. But if that's the case, you move on to Casey Thompson. At least give him a start for this next game and see how he does in comparison. I don't know. Cards looked sketchy, I guess is the way.
Right. Well, Sark said he looked antsy in the pocket. I think the young was that's a great call, Brian. He just looks young and inexperienced, and maybe he is getting just a little anxious back there trying to do too much. He is going to get into the game against Rice. Sarkisian said he's going to play two quarterbacks. This already has Texas fans kind of scratching their heads saying this looks a little bit similar. The first few games of the Tom Herman era, it was Shane Bichelle. Then he got replaced by Sam Ellinger. So, I mean, Card is still in this competition. It's going to be really interesting to see, but I talked about it on this show, I think a couple weeks ago with LSU. It's like your team needs to know who the guy is.
Yeah.
It's very important to have that solid number one. Yeah. I mean, obviously you want as many serviceable quarterbacks as you can on the roster, but like at a certain point, I think it's hindering your team if you're switching off drives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit probably later with the team that's worse on that as our next pick, as people will see. I entirely agree here. I think so. You're on the Thompson train as well. We got 3 Thompsons.
Thompsons, yeah.
All right.
Card wins the name game, but Casey wins the quarterback spot.
Then we will move on to the next team, which is Iowa State. Just took a loss to Iowa. We've got Brock Purdy versus Hunter Deckers. Brock Purdy struggled tremendously in this last game against Iowa. Obviously, they lost that game 27-17. He was 13 of 27, 0 TDs, and 3 interceptions. You never want to see that. So Decker got to see some playing time. But interestingly, he did get a touchdown. Interestingly, they've already, it's pretty much been confirmed that Purdy is coming back as a starter. So is this a fluke game here, or, I mean, even the first game that we saw with Purdy against UNI, obviously the team struggled. He wasn't terrible, but 16-10 win, that's not great. That offense is supposed to be, very good this year. We discussed it in week 1. They got great QB, great running back, great coaching staff. You probably shouldn't be struggling this much. So we'll start with Tom on this one. Stick with Purdy, or are we going Deckers?
Yeah, I mean, Purdy hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 2 games, but you look at who they played. I told you guys about Iowa's defense, right?
Yeah.
They're led by a star-studded group of playmakers on that defense, and it's contributed to Brees Hall struggling. When they've taken away Iowa State's identity, they've neutralized Brees Hall. Brock Purdy has to become one-dimensional, right? And that's why you're seeing these stats. This shouldn't cause him to lose his starting job, though. Hunter Deckers, he looked decent, had a touchdown pass, only 16 pass attempts on the season. But I'm going with Brock Purdy here. You have to go with the veteran. Look, it's only 2 games. You have to give the team a chance to get their feet wet a little bit. It's been a while since they've played this many games, and I think by week 4 or week 5, Brock Purdy's going to hit his stride. But if he continues to struggle like this over the next 2 or 3 weeks, then we can reevaluate and have this conversation again about potentially inserting Hunter Deckers.
Yeah, I'm on the same page here. Interestingly, the next 3 games are probably their easiest of the entire season. Coming up, they've got at UNLV, at Baylor, and versus Texas. Probably 3 of the, I mean, Baylor might be a little bit of a stretch, but UNLV and Kansas certainly 2 of the worst teams on their schedules this year. So if he's struggling after those, even just after the Baylor game, I probably would pull him then. I think 4 games, especially against 2, very bad opponents. If you're still struggling, that you're getting pulled. But yeah, I agree. I'm not pulling him this early. These are likely just, a one-off. There's a lot of pressure on this Iowa State team. They've been talked up. I mean, like I said, we talked about it week 1. We've given them a lot of praise. I said they were going to win the Big 12. Probably a terrible call at this point, but that's the hype that's been surrounding this.
They haven't lost the conference game yet, Brian.
I know. I think I just may have gotten a little ahead of myself. Oklahoma's still looking decent. But yeah, if he's still struggling after those games, I think you probably give Deckers a chance, at least so, give Brock Purdy a cool-off game to, get his head right. Andy, who are you taking here?
So if you look at the numbers from this year, you guys have already said it. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. That's not great. The Cyclones offense is second to last in the Big 12 right now with 337 yards per game, about 100 yards less than they were averaging last year. That's not good. But I got to raise you this. Brock Purdy is the winningest quarterback in program history. He's on the cusp of becoming the Cyclones' all-time leader in passing and total offense. You can't sit him. I'm sorry. One bad game, you can't. No. He's not getting sat. I said last week that I trusted Brock Purdy and Brees Hall a lot more than Petrus and Goodson, and boy, was I wrong in that game. But, credit the Iowa defense. They won them that game. Spencer Petrus, I think, threw for like 104 yards. I'm not impressed by that. I mean, Goodson had a great day on the ground. Anytime you throw 3 interceptions, it's gonna lose you the game. I think Brees Hall fumbled a couple times too. It's just Iowa State could not get out of their own way in that game against the Hawkeyes. But I will eat crow. I was dead wrong. The Hawkeyes were the better team on that day. But yeah, no, I'm going with Purdy. I'm giving him, I'm not saying he can't lose his spot, but 2 games into the year at this point, yeah, not yet. It's not time yet.
All right, another sweep here for Brock Purdy. You're safe, buddy. Moving on to the next team. we have the University of Florida starter Emory Jones going up against Anthony Richardson, who I think, by all accounts and on everyone's radar, is rated as probably the better athlete, probably better thrower, I think everyone thinks. But Emory's continuing to get the starts. But the questions are coming for Dan Mullen here. Everyone wants Anthony Richardson. This isn't just Florida fans anymore. This is everyone
Mm-hmm.
watching the games and seeing Anthony Richardson's skill set. So now Dan Mullen is under a lot of pressure, and his most recent comments were that, I mean, they're going up against Bama, so a tough game to start. But he said both are going to get playing time this week, not just because he wanted to test them out, but because it's in the game plan. What that means for going up against a team like Alabama, I have no idea. Uh, Personally, I'll just start with mine because it's very quick. I'm starting Anthony Richardson against Alabama. They're probably going to get clobbered anyways, but we need to see what this kid can do. There's no better defense in the SEC right now than Alabama, so why not test him out, see what he's got. Uh, it's Anthony Richardson all the way for me. Just watching, the very brief amount of time he's had on the field, that running threat that he has, it's too much to leave on the bench, I guess, for me.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this one, Andy?
So it's interesting. He's only played 37 snaps on the year, only 11 snaps in the USF game. If you ignore the snap count, he's PFF's number one quarterback in America through 2 weeks, Anthony Richardson. He's averaging 21 yards per touch. I don't know how you can keep him off the field. That's really tough. And, we talked about this earlier with a guy like Casey Thompson who kind of put his time in, right? He had to wait. Emory Jones had to wait behind Felipe Franks, Kyle Trask. And, this was supposed to be his moment. So these mistakes are just getting magnified, right? Because he's got this incredible dude behind him but it wasn't supposed to be Richardson's time yet. But if you're playing your way onto the field, if you're going 21 excuse me, 21 yards every time you touch the ball, it's like, is Matt Nagy the coach of the fucking Florida Gators keeping him off the field at this point? What are we doing? Four interceptions for Jones through 2 games isn't great. Like,
Against bad teams, too.
yeah. Pick 6 against USF, not good.
Not good.
Didn't FAU have a pick 6 against him too? So it's just like, I don't know. It's against a team like Alabama. Like, imagine if he throws one of those in the first half when they're already down like 7-0 or 14-0. It's game over. It's that the air will be sucked out of the swamp, and I just don't think, like, if you're Dan Mullen, you just can't have that. Start the young guy and see what you got.
All right, Tom. We're going to have another sweep here. Are you going with Richardson?
Absolutely. I mean, Emory Jones, he sat behind Kyle Trask the last couple of years, and what's crazy is Brett Heggie graduated as well, so he's working with Kingsley, who was the backup center last year, and their chemistry is just way off. You would think that would be much better, and
Mm-hmm.
Richardson has much higher upside. He is their leading rusher too, and this 2 QB approach against Alabama, it won't work uh, for them to win this game. Maybe it works long term, but Anthony Richardson has to be the guy. I mean, Florida Gator fans love him, and Gator fan even messaged me that he wants to see him start. My buddy Garth from Florida. So yeah, Anthony Richardson's my guy. Sorry, Emory, it's not your position to win here.
Another sweep here. But the first one for the person on the bench right now. So, Dan Mullen, you've heard it. It's official now. Get AR-15 in the game. And with that, we'll move to our shots and chasers, the weekly must-watch games. Must-watch games of the week, I should say. Starting off on the noon slate, we have University of Miami versus Michigan State Spartans. This is in Hard Rock Stadium, guys. 6-point favorites is Miami. It's supposed to be 91 degrees, nice and hot for a team coming from Michigan. Tom, we'll start with you on this one. Who are you taking?
Miami barely squeaked by Appalachian State, and you saw how they performed against Alabama. So I'm already concerned about them in this game. I don't know if that I believe they're 6-point favorites, so I don't know
Hmm.
if I trust that line. As where Michigan went in, they beat Northwestern on the road. Peyton Thorne has looked outstanding. So has Kenneth Walker III. He has 5 touchdowns and over 300 yards already. And Jaden Reed, who's averaging over 27 yards a catch. And their defense is led by an outstanding young safety in Xavier Henderson, 2 sacks and an interception from the safety position. I don't see how you don't pick Michigan State in this game, but Miami being at home, something tells me they really have a shot to squeak by here. But to be a little different, I'm going to go with Michigan State upsetting Miami. It's just the way the trend has gone the first 2 weeks. The ranked teams are losing. Michigan State seems to be on the rise. So I'm going with the Spartans.
I agree. I'm also going with the Spartans here. Walker just has been a beast so far. This is kind of one of those weird games where, I mean, Miami hasn't looked great, but Appalachian State is one of the better schools from the FCS, and Alabama obviously is a team that's just top of the nation. So I think everyone expected a loss there. And on the other side, you have Michigan State, who hasn't really played anyone super tough yet. Obviously, only 2 games in. That Northwestern game, Northwestern's usually pretty average, middle of the pack, top middle range in the Big Ten usually. So that was a decent win, but Youngstown State, everyone expected them to roll. They did roll. But yeah, they just seem very disjointed now. And I think the bad juju from pulling out that turnover chain down 1 billion points against Alabama, then having to put it back in the box, um, that's that's never a good look. So yeah, I'm taking Michigan State here straight up, and also with the points. Andy?
Yeah, take the Spartans, and let me tell you why. Walker, like Tom mentioned, 264 and 4 touchdowns against Northwestern. Their backup, Jordan Simmons, against Youngstown State, ran for 121 on 16 carries. They have multiple guys that can get loose in the backfield. Miami is currently sitting at a very nice number 69 in the country when it comes to stopping the run, and they're number 110 in the country when it comes to total offense. So they're struggling to get moving themselves. This is all about if Kenneth Walker can get loose and if Michigan State can pound the rock and run the ball on the Hurricanes, in my opinion. They're allowing 413 total yards a game. Miami is. Michigan State's averaging 553 total yards a game. Not a big math guy. Those numbers don't seem to be in the Hurricanes' favor. I love De'Aaron King. He's one of the most electric players in the country, but he is going to have his hands full. I know they're at home. I don't get this line, guys. I don't get this Miami -6.5. They are, I guess, well, they're at home and they're the ranked team. This seems like a rat line to me. I'm sniffing this out.
Smelling it?
I'm taking the Spartans. This could be my Big Ten bias, but they're averaging 40 points a game. They've scored on the first play of the game in each of the first 2 weeks. I'm kind of looking. It'd be pretty cool to see that trend keep going here on Saturday. Sorry, I kind of trailed off there a second. Take the Spartans. Take the Spartans.
There you go. A sweep for the Spartans. And also in the noon slot, if you don't want to watch that game, we have West Virginia taking on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech ranked number 15 right now. Andy, we'll start with you this one. 2.5-point spread. West Virginia, the favorites. Who you got?
Give me the Hokies. I love the Hokies here. I love Braxton Burmeister and what he's been able to do so far this year for Virginia Tech. I like their run game. West Virginia dropped a game to Maryland earlier this year. I think it was at home too. So actually, speaking of Maryland, I'm seeing them play Illinois on Friday night. Shout out. But yeah, I'm going to take the Virginia Tech Hokies in this matchup.
Okay. Yeah, I as well am going to take them. I dogged on Sam Howell a little bit, but I still think the UNC team is good. So that's a very good win for Virginia Tech there. They had a little bit of a light week going up against Middle Tennessee, as did West Virginia. So both of these teams should be ready to go here. But yeah, I'm a little bit. The game they did play Maryland. It was at Maryland. They lost by 6, but I'm a little bit higher on Maryland. Tua's younger brother Talia, I think he's a very good quarterback. So that Maryland team is a bit of an underdog. I don't think they're going to do anything in the Big Ten this year, but that's a team definitely to watch for the future. So that's not a great loss, but it's also not a terrible loss. But yeah, Virginia Tech looked very good against UNC, so I'm sticking with them. They're the underdogs, so you get free points there. Um, taking them both. Tom?
Points, points, points.
Yeah, West Virginia beat my alma mater 66-0 last week. So, I mean, if that preludes anything, Jarrett Dogue under center, he's been okay. I mean, I like Letty Brown; he's been solid through 2 games, but I like Braxton Burmeister a little more. He's their leading rusher and receiver at the QB position. Jermaine Walker on defense has 2 interceptions, and again, that impressive Week 1 win at UNC, 17-10. My pick here is the Virginia Tech Hokies. I mean, I got fooled once by them. I was riding Sam Howell, but this time can't go against the Hokies on the road here.
All right, sweep for the Hokies. At 3:30, probably the game of the week for most people, unless you hate the SEC. Alabama taking on Florida at the Swamp. Alabama 14.5-point favorites. We just talked about probably the biggest news line of this game is who Florida will start at QB. So we will see action from both of them. Whether that's going to help them or not, I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I think Bama is winning this game. Bryce Young is clearly a Heisman favorite at this current point in time. He's been outstanding. 7 touchdowns through 2 games. Bama just replaces talent with more talent. Jamison Williams and John Mechie II are 2 big play threats. And defensively, I love Fedarian Mathis. 2 sacks in the first 2 games. The way he just uses finesse moves, he uses his strength. He has very good hand placement against offensive linemen. And again, we mentioned earlier, Florida's still trying to figure out who their quarterback will be. I like their defense. Zach Carter has 3 sacks, but it won't be enough. Alabama's a whole nother animal. However, I will say this. I don't know about this spread because last year Florida gave Alabama their toughest, well, in the regular season at least, they gave them their toughest match. We know who really gave them their toughest match. It was my team in the college football semifinal, but Florida gave them their toughest match in the regular season. However, it's a different team this year. For me, I'm picking Bama, but I'm not so sure about the spread.
All right, so toss up on the spread. Bama straight up. I'm taking Bama straight up and also the spread because I think the confusion that we're going to see with this quarterback swapping is just it's going to be worse than the benefits that it will bring, unless at halftime Mullen has a sort of aha moment, like a eureka moment, and starts A-Rich for the entire second half. I think this is going to go very badly for the Gators. I think on defense they might be decent. But even still, once Alabama gets rolling, this is not the Alabama of old. And I say old, only talking about 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago with the 9-6 game against LSU. This offense can fly now, and it has been able to for the last few years. Saban has completely adopted not an offense first mindset, but it's definitely equal to the defense now. He's realized that that's the way to go in the current college football landscape. I don't know if Florida has enough on defense to compensate for the fact that this, quarterback swapping is gonna, I don't know, be a little confusing, I guess, going forward. So if we hear A-Rich is gonna get more snaps in the coming days before the game starts, I might just avoid the spread. If not, and they continue the split, I'm taking Alabama and minus 14.5. Andy?
Listen, guys, if you're a betting person, just whatever whatever the Alabama spread is every week, blindly bet it. Just blindly bet it. Alabama has won its last 7 meetings against the Gators by an average of 21.6 points per game. Dan Mullen is 0-10 straight up against Alabama. Between his head coaching stops at Mississippi State and Florida. The Crimson Tide are 8-4-1 against the spread when they're road favorites since 2018. I'm going to take that every time. As far as the game goes and not just degenerate betting stats for you, Bryce Young, He's been incredible to start the year, 7 total touchdowns, but this is his first road start. The Swamp is a tough place to play. How does the sophomore quarterback respond to the Swamp in that first true road test?
That's what I'm saying.
Florida defense, there is a formula for this game. They've only allowed 2.4 yards per carry so far to start. If they can stop the run, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Bryce Young to have to make plays and make that offense be more one-dimensional. So it'll be interesting to see if Alabama can establish the run. Robinson Jr. is averaging almost 6 yards a carry, but I think he's getting like 11 attempts per game. So like that's not really like, setting up the run game and establishing it. If they can do that, and if Florida can limit the turnovers, then Florida covers. If not, I think it's going to be a long night for the Gators. I don't know. It's just so hard for me to bet against this Alabama team. So hard.
All right, and if you don't want to watch that game, if you're an SEC hater, we got Memphis versus Mississippi State. Leach and his air raid offense taking on an AAC team. Tom, we'll start with you on this one. Who you got?
This is a tough game because sophomore QB Will Rogers completes 75% of his passes. He's very accurate, and I love wide receiver Jaden Wally. He's been very solid. The Bulldogs are led with a solid secondary, Fred Peters and Emmanuel Forbes, who I happen to really like. But there's always a but. Memphis is led by QB Seth Hennigan, who, quite frankly, is a stud already. Brandon Thomas has been outstanding on the ground, 338 rushing yards. I think they have more weapons than Mississippi State does offensively. They have Sean Dykes at tight end, who I love. Calvin Austin III has 4 touchdowns. And freshman DB Greg Rubin. This guy's come out of nowhere. 8 passes defended in 2 games. I mean, that's going to be tough for Jaden Wally to even get open against this guy. So I know Mississippi State is favored on the road, but go Memphis. I'm going with the home team here. I like Mississippi State a lot, but I think Memphis squeaks this one out.
Yeah, this is going to be a great quarterback battle, I think. Leach has, thrown it all behind Will Rogers. Obviously, everyone is well aware he likes to throw the ball as a coach. Obviously, I would like to see Memphis win as an American Conference fan with UCF. It'd be a nice win to have against the SEC. But I don't know. Leach is just such a wild card that I hate to go against him because it's always fun to watch these games. So I think I'm going to do it. I like Will Rogers a little bit more than Hennigan. But I do agree Memphis looks very good offensively. So that plethora of weapons they have could make this game very interesting. And notably, the reason I put this game on here, it is the closest, at least of the week, game in the FPI. 50.7% chance of a win for Mississippi State, 49.3% for Memphis. So basically dead even. If you want to bet the spread though, 3-point underdogs is Memphis Tigers. So yeah, I'm giving the slight edge here to Mississippi State, but I think I'll be tuning into this game definitely during the breaks of the Alabama game because I think this will be a nice matchup to watch. Andy?
I like the Bulldogs, guys. Memphis, their pass defense is just atrocious. It's pretty much non-existent. They gave up 582 yards and 5 touchdowns against Arkansas State last week. That's Arkansas State, and you're going up against an SEC offense led by Mike Leach, who probably throws the ball more than anybody in the country. Mississippi State is going to get theirs through the air. I mean, they can't stop the pass. They have 1 turnover in the first 2 games. The defense doesn't generate any pass rush at all. They're going to give up like 600 yards on Saturday. Book that, take the over, and take the Bulldogs to win.
All right. And then our late night games. First up, we have number 22 Auburn at number 10 Penn State. Should be an interesting one here. Probably one of the better ranked versus ranked matchups this week outside of Alabama, Florida. Penn State is the 5-point favorite here. Andy, who you got?
Big Ten bias, baby. Give me the Nittany Lions. I like the Nittany Lions here. I just first year head coach down at Auburn, and Harden, is that his name? Is that right? From Boise State? What's his name? Either way, they got a
Couldn't tell you.
first-year head coach. James Franklin actually has his team playing pretty well. I know, obviously, you talk about that big win over Wisconsin, where Wisconsin did shoot themselves in the foot, but that was just a classic noon Big Ten football game. They take care of business against Ball State last week, 44-13. Auburn did hang a lot of points. What did they score, like 62? But they were playing just a nobody. So I think this comes down to if Sean Clifford can take care of the ball for the Nittany Lions, I think they have a really good chance of winning this game. I can see it. I can see Auburn staying within the number, but I just don't. I don't trust them.
Yeah, this is another weird one based on scheduling so far because it's so early. Like you said, they've played nobody's pretty much. I think Alcorn's.
Also, I think they're doing the whiteout this Saturday.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got white out here. Yeah, man, Auburn has only played Alcorn State and Akron, which is part of the reason why they have highest points per game in the nation at 61, and lowest points allowed per game average at 5. That looks great on paper, but these opponents haven't been strong. Man, you might have just changed my mind with the whiteout. I was gonna go with the underdog here. Night game whiteout. All right,
Hold
I'm
on.
taking it.
Can I play devil's advocate for you? I just looked it
Okay.
up. They are 8-8 all time when conducting a whiteout, so not as good as you'd think.
Don't care. I love the energy. I'm taking Penn State with the whiteout.
Electric.
Tom?
Make it 3. Their defense has forced 5 turnovers in the first 2 games. I mean, Bo Nix, the offense has scored 60-plus points in their first 2. They have 2 excellent running backs in Jarquez Hunter and Tank Bigsby, but I just first-year head coach Brian Harsin, I just don't see them pulling this off.
Okay.
I think Penn State is going to pull this one out, and yeah, the whiteout's a huge factor. I mean, having fans back in the stands, it's crazy. You have people cheering from the stands now. No pun intended. So, give me Penn State. Book it.
All right, another sweep here. Oh no, Andy, you went Penn State, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another sweep then. I like it. And an interesting one here. If you don't want to watch that game, we have ULM taking on Jackson State. Primetime. Deion Sanders' team got his son starting at QB. This is a great one. It's on ESPN3, so you should be able to watch it at the very least on your computer, on your laptop, on your phone. Yeah, I had to put this on here because FCS has been blowing out some of these FBS teams. I think we have the most FCS wins against FBS teams through week 2 so far. I think we're at 8, which is just 4 per week. That's absolutely incredible. And we have another option here, or another chance here for an FCS team to do it in Jackson State against a team that's typically in the bottom 10 in rankings this year in ULM. So what are we thinking, Tom? We seen another FCS upset here?
Yes, I mean, I love Deion Sanders. I think they're going to pull it off. I mean, they took care of Tennessee State last week, 38-16. I know the Warhawks, they're led by Ty Shelby. He's been great, but they got obliterated by Kentucky. I'm not sold on this UL Monroe team. I think Jackson State's going to go in and take it, move on to 3-0, representing the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Give me Jackson State.
All right, I'm also taking the primetime led Jackson State here. Mainly, I want to see the upset. Mainly, I just want to see Deion going crazy on the sideline with his son. If they can upset this FBS team, like you said, that Kentucky game, not a great look for ULM. And they've only played, that was their only game of the season so far, so they haven't had much time, to get the reps in. So I'm sticking with Jackson State here, despite the fact ESPN's FPI has ULM still at a 92.7% chance to win. Give me the massive underdog here, Jackson State. Andy?
Coach Prime is the swaggiest coach you will see on the sidelines in America. I was able to catch their game last week against Florida A&M because I think they played on Sunday, and they ended up winning 7-6. Not a bunch of points, but Shadur Sanders, their quarterback, a freshman, he made a couple mistakes. He can sling it. He is electric. He was a former 3-star recruit. Decides to come play for his dad. And don't forget, Deion brought in 12 transfers from major Division I programs and junior colleges. He also has a son on the defensive side of the ball playing cornerback, Shadur Sanders. Shiloh Sanders is the cornerback. Rocking number 21, hits a lot harder than his dad does. Aubrey Miller at the middle linebacker spot, another name to watch out for on the Tigers defense. I love Jackson State in this game. If you guys haven't seen it yet, there's a great documentary, like little miniseries, 6-episode miniseries that Barstool Sports did on Jackson State and Coach Prime, like when he first got there in the spring, about the spring season, kind of just chronicling like what he is trying to do, like how he is trying to even the playing field for those HBCUs with the major programs. And yeah, just catch this game if you can. Jackson State's fun to watch. Coach Prime's reactions on the sideline are always great too. They almost always have a fucking camera on Deion Sanders. You're not gonna miss it.
As they should. That's gonna wrap up the games of the week for us, and that's gonna wrap up the show. Follow along, subscribe down below if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter from the Stands US. If you want to follow Andy and Tom, their shows and all their social medias will also be down in the description. That's going to wrap it up for us. Enjoy the games this week. See you guys next week.